Joining me is the head of the Kurdish Lobby Australia, Eziz Bawermend. Thank you so much for joining me. Donald Trump says this is a win for the United States. He's right as far as that goes, isn't he?
Well, firstly, Andrew, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the oppressed, downtrodden and disinherited Kurdish people yearning to be free. I don't take Donald Trump seriously anymore. It doesn't really matter what he says. He's an unhinged man. He has betrayed the Kurds, his allies, who only a short while ago he was full of praise for them. And with all this death and destruction, I don't know how he can call it victory. He really, really needs to see a psychiatrist, Andrew.
But like he says, his promise was to take American troops out of there and just leave people to fight amongst themselves. The reason that Turkey has given for this invasion was it did not want a Kurdish state being formed on its border with Syria, and especially one run by a militia linked to the PKK, which is banned around the world, here as well, as a terrorist group. Do you blame Turkey for wanting to move in and clear them out?
Of course I blame Turkey, Andrew. Firstly, the Kurds of Rojava, or northern Syria, were not trying to create an independent state, but rather have an autonomous region with some measure of self-government and genuine grassroots democracy, rather than some phony democracies in the Middle East. Erdogan had no justification whatsoever to invade northern Syria. Now, Turkish ambassador last year claimed that Article 51 of the UN Charter gave them that right. Allow me to read just the first line of the Article 51, please, Andrew, just one line. Nothing shall impair the inherent right of the individual or collective self-defense if an armed attack occurs. The Kurds did not even threaten Turkey, much less attack Turkey. So there was simply no justification to stop
let me just pull you up on a couple here. PKK, it is linked to PKK. It is listed including in Australia as a terrorist group, as recently as last year again. And you say this militia linked to it didn't want to create an autonomous state, and yet you yourself wrote last year that if Syrian Kurds and their allies achieve a federal democracy in Syria, then Kurds in Turkey will become more determined to achieve the same, which is exactly what Turkey's worried about. And you added, this may not be a bad thing. I mean, can't you understand that Turkey does not want a renewed war with the Kurds that's already cost 40,000 lives?
Well, most of those lives, firstly, are killed by Turkish security forces. The kill ratio, if you look at the Turkish media, the official state media, the kill ratio is around 8 to 9 to 1. Now, people claim that there is a link between Kurds of Syria, or the armed group, and the PKK. Well, both sides of the border are populated by Kurds. There are cousins, uncles, nieces, nephews, and so on, if that's the talk we're talking about. PKK is true, it is listed by a number of countries as a terrorist organization, but that is a political decision without judicial oversight. Sure, US, Australia have listed PKK as a terrorist organization, but Norway, Switzerland, Israel, the world's biggest democracy, India, have not listed PKK as a terrorist organization. No less than 3 Belgian courts, including the highest court in Belgium, ruled that PKK is not a terrorist organization and said that all the evidence introduced in the courtroom by Turkish government had no merit, or in the ordinary language was
well, that may be
crap.
There. I'm just going by the ASIO assessment, which lists a number of PKK car bombings, etc., as recently as a couple of years ago. Threats, plots that against the Organisation of Islamic Cooperation Summit, things like this. But put that to one side. You also have they are linked, and this is a group that's going by this wild sort of anti-capitalist, socialist, anarchist blend, inspired by this obscure American anarchist who died a couple of years ago. Is trying to impose his philosophy on this region, and I just wonder, can't you understand why Turkey might think this is all too much to risk, given the bloodshed that it's gone through up to now?
Andrew, Turkey has other reasons, the one that they have stated, for attacking Kurdish people. Any measure of freedom obtained by Kurds anywhere in the world is not welcomed by Turkish leaders. The history of it goes back to 1923. The fact that ASIO has said this or has said that, ASIO has not done any independent research, has not conducted independent sources. It merely accepts whatever the Turkish intelligence organization, known as MIT, gives them, and then ASIO simply puts that as proven, as factual.
Well,
Turkish
I'd be disappointed if it was that
agreed.
sloppy. I would be disappointed if it was that sloppy, and unfortunately I'm not in a position to check whether it is just doing that.
I am afraid it is. We went to Canberra, we talked to parliamentarians. I'm afraid it is, Andrew. That is all.
Okay, well, I'll leave you to have made that point.
Has never agreed to an independent inquiry of all these atrocities that it attributes to PKK. If it genuinely believed those atrocities were committed by PKK, it would agree to an independent international inquiry to ascertain the real culprits.
Okay, Eziz Bawermend, thank you so much indeed for your time.
I thank you again for this opportunity, Andrew.